That is just would be. It would. I don't even.
One of the numbers I saw was $500 million. That estimate. I mean, where's that money going to come from?
Yeah, I mean, it's not like we have any budget deficits or debt or anything like that.
Not at all.
To be worrying about. But I mean, the one thing I should note is that all the bills coming through the House have to go through the House Judiciary Committee, and the chairman, Bob Goodlatte from Virginia, is a staunch opponent of gun control. He has an A rating from the NRA, and he's pretty much said in some statements that he's not even going to entertain anything that comes close to gun control.
Yeah, I can see that. It'll be interesting to see when they have the national panel that they're going to have, or the commission that Biden is supposed to head up, what's going to be the outcome, if they'll pick and choose something out of this and see what the public's opinion, because they're going to play the marketing game with this to pass this, to try to pass whatever they want to push through. Now, what about the NRA being bullied? I mean, what's the feeling around Washington?
Well, the NRA is, I think I just read the NRA is supposed to meet actually with the Biden panel, I believe next Thursday, or sometime in the near future. They're supposed to meet with the Biden panel. I mean, given the antagonism, I don't know how far they'll get in those talks or how much either side will entertain the other's ideas. I think it'll be good for the NRA to assert itself and maybe see exactly what the panel's coming or wants to push through. The Washington Post had a big story over the weekend on what the panel is trying to do, and they're feeling out and trying to figure out how much public support they have for some of these things. They're even lobbying or starting to lobby chains like Walmart to see if they can incentivize them to stop selling AR-15s and things like that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things you can see. I mean, you had that the gun manufacturer had the problem with Bank of America this past week. Went to the public and to get his funds released. After someone had told him that he basically, we don't like what you're doing. Yeah,
I mean, and if you look at the polls that have been coming out, even though, for some things, depending on the question you ask, Americans seem like they would almost favor gun control. But one poll says something like 73% don't favor banning handguns or are very opposed to banning handguns. So I think the general feeling is there's still a lot of opposition to really broad gun control bills. The most politically feasible option I think Democrats have would be banning high-capacity magazines or something like that.
Yeah, well, you can see the different states have different things going on with it. And I think that's, if different states want to do it, I can see that happening. But having a federal broadband thing across the whole country, it seems it could be pretty ineffective. I mean, Montana has different problems than South Carolina, and I don't see how they would do it. I mean, they could do it. There's no doubt about it. What do you, when you look at these things, what do you, where do you see this evolving to?
I mean, right now there's a big push for it, but let me tell you, the Congress is going to be very busy for the next few months. We're going to have another debt ceiling debate and debate over taxes and spending that's going to consume a good portion of the next few months. There's also cabinet appointments. Chuck Hagel, who's a very controversial nominee, is going to have to go through a Senate nomination process. So what you might see happening is a lot of this momentum that the Democrats feel they have slip away, and they get mired back down in the rest of their business. I can't really even see anything coming through by this spring. I'd be surprised if there was any substantive gun control legislation even brought to the floor for debate before summer.
Yeah, I see this. I agree with you. I think this is going to be one of those ones where, as we get further away from the horrible tragedy, the people are going to be, well, do we really want, do you really want this? Will they support it? I mean, obviously the people that have got these bills, they're in safe districts that there's going to be no challenge to them. They could put these out, but I don't see it getting the broad support across the country.
No, there's certainly not the public support. Like I said before, the polls are pretty clear that the majority of Americans don't favor stricter gun controls on most issues. And then the longer they wait, the closer it gets to 2014. If they had the votes now, maybe senators felt like they'd have some more cover, but the closer it gets to 2014, the more wary members in unsafe districts are going to be about voting for something like that.
Yeah, and look at some of the. I mean, the NRA is definitely will not forget, and they know that.
Yeah, as much as people like to claim that the NRA is no longer a powerful organization, they have a long memory and 4 million members. Trust me, they like to say that the gun control debate has swung, but I think they'll still be very wary about how they vote on things like this. Yeah, well, the president, didn't even want to go touch it during the campaign, really. So I can't see it being, this. Obviously, this tragedy happening put it in everyone's maybe framed it a lot differently. But as we get away from it, looking away, further away, I don't see it being as much of an issue. What about the taxing of like ammunition and that? What have you heard? Some of those. Because they like this, they want to tax everything. I haven't heard too much about new taxes. Most of what I've been seeing in these House proposals has to do with strengthening background checks and closing these so-called loopholes. Let's see here. And creating national registries and things like that. Now, I imagine if you're going to have any sort of registry, then you're going to also have a tax on registering your gun. So I think that's what people are moving towards. I haven't heard much about ammo tax. Ammo tax. And my last question for you tonight was, what do you think the Alex Jones thing with Piers Morgan last night hurt the debate, or was it just pure wrestling theater, political theater? What's your take on it? Well, the thing is now that, I'm not sure your feelings on Alex Jones, but when I see write-ups of it, they describe Alex Jones as conservative, which, having him on Piers Morgan talking about 9/11 being an inside job and then having to be described as conservative and a Second Amendment supporter, maybe it isn't the best thing for us. But it's hard. It's almost impossible to lose a debate with Piers Morgan. Let me put it that way. I agree. His negatives are pretty high, and I can't see how. I think that there's different demographics or different people out there, and I think that there is a segment of the population that's just fed up with it. And he has that demographic. Well, Alex Jones has a huge audience, yep. And and anytime. Like I said, it's impossible to lose a debate to Piers Morgan because he's just so unlikable. Yeah, he really is, and to have him out there as the mouthpiece, and I think some of it is the coasts, and just like the election, the coast versus the other parts of the country. Yeah. And this debate is really no different than it would be, and that we're going to see that play out. Yeah, I think that's how it's going to go. It's. It's these urban areas. You get Feinstein from California and Schumer from New York and Bloomberg from New York. It's really a cultural thing. What it comes down to is these big city Democrats, and they don't think about how it actually is in the rest of the country, and don't really understand where a lot of these people are coming from. Yeah, it's a different story in out west or in the Midwest than it is in the urban areas. There's no doubt about it. So, well, CJ, what's the best way for people to follow you? What do you prefer? Oh, well, you can always go to freebeacon.com and check out what we're doing. That's the best way. I'm on Twitter, but my name is nearly unspellable, so I'm not going to try and give it to people over the air. Okay. But if you go to freebeacon.com, there's a link. If you find my byline, I'm CJ Ciaramella, and I'll be covering the gun issue for the near future. Well, CJ, I really appreciate you coming on. This is CJ Ciaramella, the staff writer for Washington Free Beacon. Thanks for coming on. You're welcome anytime. Thanks for having me. Yeah, see ya. I think I when I look at some of the gun issues, and I'm out here in